Good morning, church. I hope that your uh, day of worship, your Lord's Day, has started off well, and I hope that your time of worshiping at home or wherever you are at somebody else's home or something like that is already proving to be a blessing to you. It, I don't know, it's kind of special in its own way. Obviously, we hope that this won't be the continued method for a very long time, but it's kind of special in its own way. Putting the whole Jesus's teaching that where two or three are gathered in His name, He is in our midst. Putting that whole idea to work, it's kind of special, and so I hope that you are being blessed by that today. I want to give you a little bit of perspective on time, which all of us seem to be very conscious of these days, maybe in a new level. And so I just want to give you a little bit to think about with the biblical perspective on time, and especially because a lot of us feel like we have more of it at our disposal now. Just some things to think about to put that to work. It's an interesting thing to stop and consider our kind of ingrained perspective on how time works. You know, we measure time with stopwatches and calendars, right? And so that's what we do with it. We just talk about how much of it has passed. And as I've considered that, we do that almost to an idolatrous degree sometimes. At least we can fall into doing that. Time is for us an important measure of our work success. How much time did you put in on that thing? That's a good measure of the success of a particular effort. Or we get a diagnosis that's not promising, and our first question to the doctor is, how much time do I have? Or you think about athletics and sports and how much of that revolves around who's the fastest in whatever way it is. Who's the fastest? That's the thing that we want to know, is how much detailed measurement of time can we do, because it matters so much to us in that way. And lest you think that I'm overstating the case a little bit in that whole idea that maybe our devotion to amounts of time could become an idolatrous thing, I would just remind us that Jesus warned against money becoming our master, and we have a phrase that says time is money. And so it's one of those things that it really can become a significant, maybe an overly significant thing for us to think about. And we need to just make sure that our perspective on it is good. Now, one of the ways that I think we can do that is by changing the way that we measure time. There's no way to completely walk away and completely escape from measuring time with quantity indicators, again, stopwatches and calendars. There's no way to completely change that and to completely walk away from it, and we don't need to. But there is another tool that might work better for the way we measure our time in terms of each of us and our own usage of our time. There's another tool that might work better, and I think that would be a scale. And that's what I really want to encourage you with today. Is I want to encourage you to measure time, your time, and the way you live your life in regards to your time. I want to encourage you to measure it with scales, not with a stopwatch. And that makes sense with the passage that a lot of people have been reading this past week, and a lot of people have been talking about. Among them, John Bingham. If you watched his video on Facebook on Thursday, I believe it was, Wednesday or Thursday, he talked about this passage from James chapter 4, starting in verse 13. James says, "Come now, you who say, well, today or tomorrow we'll go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will do this or do that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil." Now, the reason I'm bringing up that passage is basically for two reasons, right? Number one is the perspective that starts off without without considering what God would want us to do. And that's the perspective that measures time by the stopwatch, right? How much time do we have? How are we going to use it? We're going to have tomorrow, so let's go use that. Well, yeah, okay, do that. But the better way to do that is to measure time through the scales and to think about how our relationships are defining that time. And so that's what happens down in verse 15 of that passage. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, because that indicates the relationship with Him. That shows the quality of the time we spend, not just our view of its quantity. And so that's what I want us to do. I want you to just change the metaphor for a little bit. Change the metaphor of time as something that is running out, and turn it into something that is there to be measured for its weight, for its substance. And I think one really good way to do that, especially right now, if I know not everybody's experience with the whole quarantine thing is the same, but if your experience is that you're stuck at home, or you're working more or something like that, then one really good way to add some substance and add some weight to the scales when measuring your time is to kind of reset your heart. Take this as an opportunity to reset your heart toward communication with God. And obviously when I say that, what I mean is prayer and reading the Bible. It's a really good time to just reset our whole personal sense of expectation about what that looks like and how much of that we can actually do. A lot of us, we kind of live our lives on time credit, that, I'll do that when I have more time. And obviously James would tell us, don't plan things like that. Go ahead and do it when you have time now. Make time for that sort of thing. But even if that's going to be the way that you're thinking about it, I just want to encourage you, you have time. Probably most of us have time now that we just haven't had before. And so rather than saying it in terms of now, when I have time, I'll spend more time in prayer, I'll spend more time in Bible reading, I'll create a habit then. Rather than saying that, I just want you to go ahead and change it to, I'm going to do that when I decide to use my time better. And that, I would say, do that as soon as you can. Because there's another verse that I'd like for you to think about here, and this is kind of the last bit of the spiritual thoughts that I'd like to give you today. There's a verse in Ephesians. There's a little short passage in Ephesians. This is Ephesians chapter 5. I'm going to start reading in verse 15, that talks about this whole idea of not how much time you have and measuring it in the stopwatch, but measuring it in the scales. Okay? Ephesians 5, verse 15. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. And therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. He doesn't say creating more time for yourself. Time is going to be what it's going to be. The sun's going to rise and set at the same time until the Lord tells it to do differently. But what he says is making the best use of your time. And I want to encourage you to make sure that that's what you're doing with today. Measure for substance, not just for length, because there is so much that can be done with our time in really positive and really good ways when we make sure that that's what we're doing. All right, I've got a couple of notes here that I need to make sure and just get across to everybody. A couple of things that the elders have asked me to communicate to you. Just for reminders to everybody, since we're not going to be together this week. There are no services today, Sunday the 22nd, and there are no services for this coming Wednesday night either. No Bible classes will be happening then. They have also gone ahead and made the decision, and I appreciate that they're trying to make this decision 1 week at a time, because if there's any window for us, where the CDC or the governor or somebody says that it might be good for us to be together, I think if there's any window where they say that might be okay, our elders are going to jump on the chance for us to get together, and I'm grateful for that. I believe that about their intentions, and I think that's why they're just giving this to us 1 week at a time. But nonetheless, here's the update on our time to be spent together as a church. They have decided there will be no assemblies the week of March 29th either. So that means next Sunday and Wednesday, March 29th and April 1st, no services at Eastland that day either. So continue to watch out for these videos and for videos from other churches that are doing this sort of thing. There's plenty of content being put out there that can help to center our minds and give us really solid content to think about as we try to worship and give our best to God on His day each week. They also wanted me to remind you, and I think this is a healthy idea as well, that if you get on our website, you can find plenty of recordings of past Bible classes. The entire series of my Torah class is posted on the website. And so if you want to go and listen to some of those lessons, whether that means listening again, those of you who've already heard them, or those of you who are in this quarter's Bible class, if you want to just keep going, you can pick up where we left off and keep listening going forward to those. And we'll put a link. I'll put a link to that where you can just click on it down in the description below this YouTube video. So you can find it that way. And I think, it will also be included in the email that helped you to find this video in the first place, if you did it that way. So anyway, those would be helpful things to keep studying and to keep working on, devoting, again, making the best use of your time, devoting your time to the things of God. And so, so make those available. We're making those available. Make some time to spend time on those. And then I just want to encourage you, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, to spend time in prayer. I want to encourage you to especially pray for those who are considered at risk for the virus, particularly our folks that are older, our senior saints, and for those with compromised immune systems in some way or another. Just keep them in your prayers. And keep our elders in your prayers, that they'll have wisdom. And because also of our announcement, mine and Caitlin's announcement from earlier this week, I would ask you if you please keep us in your prayers as we make some changes in our lives, some big changes in our lives. I know I said it in the other video. Those of you who are part of our church family and have seen that, I know I said it in that other video, but pray for us to be wise and to be for this to be a good thing for our family and for us to have peace of mind as we make this transition. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope, again, that it's a very blessed Lord's Day for you, and I hope that you enjoy, again, the uniqueness and the special way that this whole experience allows us to worship and to spend time with God today. And hopefully we'll get to see you in person pretty soon. But keep feeling free to reach out. Several of you have since Friday, and we're super, super thankful for that. Actually, okay, before I push the stop button here and turn this thing off, I did want to say specifically about that. We got a lot of texts and emails and phone calls on Friday and Saturday this week, and we were very thankful for that because we did want to say all this in person when we could talk to everybody, so I'm glad that you all wanted to talk, and I hope that you'll keep doing that. But I just wanted to thank everybody, because the way that those came across, whether your emotions were positive or negative toward mine and Caitlin's decision, toward our family's decision of what to do with our lives, whether your emotions were positive or negative, all of your behavior was good. And that sounds like I'm talking to children. I feel a little bad about that. I'm sorry. But I just appreciate it, because there is something to be said for that, about just choosing to to behave well, even if you don't like the situation. And I would never have expected anything less than that of all of you. But it was extremely encouraging, and you all just have been very encouraging to us this week. Even those of you who don't think that we should be, that the decision that we've made is the best one. Even those of you who think that have been very encouraging to us, and we're grateful. So thank you very much. I do love all of you, and I still say that without a moment of hesitation and without an ounce of insincerity. And I hope that you have a very blessed Lord's Day today, and we'll see you when we see you. All right, bye.